Welcome to Built to Scale with Anthony Mongeluzo, and that's me, your host. And today we're going to talk about the fear factor, not Joe Rogan, but the fear factor and why business leaders are afraid of AI. But are they really afraid of AI, or are they afraid of the misconceptions of AI? So we're going to dig in. Why leaders fear AI? Let's break down the psychology. So one, business leaders, and I could tell you firsthand on this one, we're afraid of losing control. And in 25 years of doing this, I probably was a pretty good micromanager for about 15, 16 years. I look back and I kick myself and I say, if I let other people do things, and I'll give a shout out to the accounting team, that was the last thing I let my hands off of, because nobody's going to care about the invoicing better than me, right? No one's going to be able to do it as good as me. Well, that's correct, because they do it better. So I spent a lot of my time doing stuff that I didn't need to do, that I had great people doing, because the fear of losing control. I've controlled everything from day one. Second thing, kind of on the same thing, fear of the unknown, right? I think the younger generation, you're 35 or less, they see this technology as cool and as awesome and things like that, right? I'm 45, and a lot of my colleagues, right, we watch Total Recall and The Terminator and all these other movies, so it's like, okay, wait, AI is going to kill us. What's it going to do to my business? Three, a lot of people, and look, this is a very tough concept with the learning models and how does it think and how does it all work? I mean, that's why there's data scientists that specialize in this, right? So people fear looking uninformed. And let's be honest, right? If you walk over and hit the light switch, do you see the electricity? Do you know how it works? Most people don't, right? It's unknown, but guess what? It's helping you. And that's something AI could do. Fear of breaking existing systems. I think that's a true fear, right? If AI gets one thing wrong, it does it fast. But that's why you get a good team and good people who could test, implement, and, get back up. So it could break an existing system, but guess what? So can a human being clicking a wrong button. So can a lightning storm that trashes your technology. So it's not just AI. And if we actually worried about all the things that could break our systems, including all the hackers using AI trying to get into them, we won't get out of bed in the morning, because there's so much activity. And last, which I really get, and it's the human element, it's the fear of team disruption or job displacement, right? I can't tell you how many people I talk to and they say, is AI going to take my job? And, it depends on the employer and it depends on a lot of things. It shouldn't, but if you learn to use the AI, you won't lose your job, right? So if you're worried about AI taking your job, do something about it. Get ahead, become that person at your organization or wherever you're at to be the leader in this. And guess what? If you're leading the trend on AI, you are not getting replaced. So what do leaders think that AI does? So the first thing is, which is to me a bit crazy, but we did some research and did some surveys and looked at these things. It replaces the team without warning. That would be mind-blowing. It's not going to happen. It might replace the way the team does certain things. It might replace useless hours on repetitive tasks. It might replace some things, but you're not going to just wake up and a team is going to be gone. Another question is that we always get, will AI make risky decisions on its own? Typically, it won't. Again, it's how you train the language model, who you're working with. Don't get me wrong, I've seen some doozies with AI. I mean, if you're those New Yorkers, the lawyers that are getting debarred because they had AI make up fake cases that it referenced, that's not a good idea. But again, you're not going to put AI in a position. It's learning how to ride a bicycle, right? When you start implementing AI, you're not driving a motorcycle. You're going in on a bicycle with training wheels. A lot of people also worry that it's going to really replace budgeting and screw up the budgeting and could cause tax issues and things like that. AI right now is not going to replace your service professionals. And by the way, I say right now, because if someone's looking at this, in 2030 and they're like, oh, this guy's wrong. Well, 10 years is about a trillion years in IT. So it's not going to do that now. Again, It's going to provide insights and enhancements. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong. I'm using the beta feature with our accounting system, and it doesn't exactly know how I fully run the business. So some of the insights it gives me might make sense to some people, but we all run our businesses a little bit different, and sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. What else did leaders think? They think it's going to introduce new vulnerabilities to the system. I'll give you a half and half on that. AI, and look, this isn't an AI thing, right? Anytime you put another piece of software, whatever it is, and connect it to your system, it's opening you up to a new vulnerability. So I think it's a misnomer to say, oh, AI is going to put a vulnerability in my system, because that's like saying, well, Adobe could get hacked, so I'm not going to read PDFs. That's not realistic. I mean, how many times has Microsoft been hit over the years? And again, even if you don't want the AI with Microsoft and with Adobe and with all the major software providers, their version and their flavor of AI is still in your system because it's embedded in their software. The last thing I'll bring up is leaders really think that AI requires advanced technical skills. Now, it depends on the AI that you're using. If you're a software developer looking to write complex code, you better have the skills to look at that complex code and not just implement it because it could be wrong. But I could tell you this, AI can be used at all levels of the organization. And if you know how to ask a question, and with a lot of the platforms, you don't even need to type. You could just speak into it. So definitely not advanced skills or advanced technical skills needed to start using it. Yeah, to implement it and train it, but you'll usually have, a leader that does something like that. But I would not worry about that. Fear is just, it's a terrible strategist, and what I always tell people, fear costs business owners, more money, right? Because they're afraid to do things, they're afraid to get ahead. And if someone else is winning that race, there's a big difference between number one and number two. Look at Coke sales and look at Pepsi sales. Number one is Coke. So let's break down some of this fear. What does AI actually do? So number one, it removes repetitive administrative tasks, right? Tasks that waste your time, waste your brain power. What did they say? Steve Jobs always wore that black shirt every morning because that was one less decision he had to make. They say every time you make a decision throughout the day, you're just giving up a little bit of your brain power for that day. So you know what? Let's get rid of those repetitive tasks. Now, it will support decision making for you. I'm not asking AI to replace your decision making. If you have a thought, you're going to run things off a colleague. And if a colleague has a counterpoint, you're going to trust your colleague. Why not trust your colleague and AI? I could tell you I've had it run metrics on, different financial things for me, had it look at marketing points, had it really do a lot of things. And do I agree with everything? No. But is it able to gather data for me to make a better decision? 100% yes. It's going to enhance accuracy and reduce human error, right? We didn't have a problem when, WordPerfect or Microsoft Word had a spell check feature, right? I think that makes about 95% of us humans look smarter because spell check is a great thing, right? Then you get software out there like Grammarly, which is AI plus spell checking. It makes suggestions. It learns your writing style. It could change the tone. So it's a really, really interesting thing. It could actually improve security. We talked about vulnerabilities earlier, but I could tell you, I would say about 99% of our clients, unless they have some specific reason, or maybe they have line machines that aren't connected to the internet, are all using some form of AI security. One, because they need it, and two, the insurance companies are requiring it. You can't get insured without it. So if used correctly, AI is going to enhance your security posture by an amazing amount. The other thing is it could boost productivity, right? So one of the things that we've used AI for here is let's make our teams faster. Let's make our teams more efficient. So no one's going to lose their job, but when we pick up another customer or two, we'll have more resources available to take on more work because look, if I'm saving 45 minutes a day, let's say with 200 people, let's make the math even easier. I don't want to look bad on my podcast. An hour a day with 200 people, assuming 5 days a week, and we never close, but let's just assume 5 days a week. That's 5,200 hours a year. So 1,000 hours a week. What would you do? What would your organization do? What would your team do? And that's on the low end. It's probably more. So AI is not here to replace you. It's here to really enhance you. It's here to upgrade you. It's here to make your life better and start using it to realize those benefits. So let's talk about some real world examples with small mid businesses, but really the large companies doing this too, and how they're using AI wisely. Number one, HR, right? What's a very important job function? It's reviewing those resumes. I could tell you though here, and again, we're an SMB, right? We're in the tri-state. We do national work, but we're a big company. We're big for our industry. We're in the 1% of the MSP space, but in the scope of the world, we're pretty small at 250, but we get a lot of resumes. So our team is able to use an HR learning model to review those resumes much more quickly. And again, we'll look at the high priority ones first. We still humanize every resume, but the AI is giving us a better chance of success. And when we have a position posted, just like all of you, it's not for 6 months from now. We have a position posted because we need it now, and we'll take whatever help we could get. Finance teams, right? They could use AI to, double check credit card statements, bank statements, billing, invoices. It makes things a lot easier to audit. I mean, a simple tip, right? You could export your bank statement into Excel, and then you could export your QuickBooks and say, hey, am I missing any transactions this month? You'll be surprised how good AI does. I've used it for a year just to test it over a lot of transactions. For any service industry, whether you're monitoring something, I don't care if you're a pool company, a plumbing company, an IT company, with predictive AI monitoring, teams could actually catch things faster. You don't have to worry about, I missed the email, it went to my junk, any of those scenarios, because you could have the AI looking through all those folders to make sure there's not a false positive or that something isn't missed. So another benefit, I know every small business owner, this is music to your ears, it's music to mine, right? We talked about it a little bit earlier. You could accomplish more with the same staff, right? So now you've picked up all this time. Now use your human brain to think, okay, what else can I AI? What else can I automate? Or what else can I do to work on the business instead of being in the business, right? If you had an extra 5 to 10 hours a week of time just to think, how could that help your business? So all these things really are about productivity. They're about security. And, the best way to look at things is when business leaders, really learn how to understand and utilize AI. You know what? All this fear, all this, I don't know, you start seeing opportunity. You start seeing gold on the street. So let's look at AI in a bit more positive manner that way. So some final takeaways and looking ahead. I could tell you, it's all right to be afraid, right? We've all been scared. Fear blocks innovation and it takes away from efficiencies. Coming from South Philly, I'm a Rocky guy. I'll try to do the Sly voice. Obviously, he does it better because he's Sly. But in Rocky, they always say, Adrian's like, hey, are you scared? Are you scared? I'm always scared before a fight. And the reason is, he goes, I always run a little faster when I'm scared. So if you could use this fear to bolster you to run towards the opportunity and run towards the innovation, make that fear your power. 2, AI will become safer and more secure when leaders understand it and embrace it. Because if you just try to slap it in there or you want to have a keyword, you're gonna miss things. And lastly, to leave you with the first step isn't throwing it on. It's not implementation. The first step is learning it in your personal life, using it, maybe talking to other people in your industry that have already implemented it. Get educated at a conference. You really want to learn about the technology. And again, the best way to learn is just start using it. So I hope this has been helpful. And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Built to Scale with me, Anthony Mongeluzo. We're going to continue on the technology crusade, whether it's AI, whether it's cybersecurity, but we're not just about tech. We're going to be talking business, leadership, finance, and philanthropy. So tune in soon.